By now we've already made a few vids on potential characters from MultiVersus, so I won't bore you with the typical introduction. And I think that's fitting because I'm talking about a character who also really needs no introduction. Popeye the Sailor Man, who I'm mostly going with to prove to my peers that I actually do like this guy. This is a character with a pretty rich history to him, from his countless adventures across the seas, to fighting Saitama on Death Battle, to inspiring one of the most iconic video game characters ever. Yeah, it's no surprise some people have been suggesting him for MultiVersus. Hell, I've even seen some guys rooting for him to make it into Smash. But I do think this is the likelier game for him to turn up in. And now I'll get into why. Now, first off, I know MultiVersus director Tony Hyun has said before that he wants anything and anyone to be possible with this game. But since Popeye would be a third-party character, I feel like I should first bring up how possible he really is. But I don't really see a lot of issues in that department. The Sailor Man's no stranger to crossover collaborations. Most recently, he crossed over with Angry Birds of all things. And before that, King Features even licensed him out for a game made by the same people behind classic titles such as Calculator for Nintendo Switch. I know that's not a crossover, but I'm bringing it up because, well, a huge company like Warner Bros. Should certainly be able to get the license if that's how high their standards are. As for why they should bother, Popeye's already popped up on a few people's wish lists, and it's not hard to see why. He's one of those classic icons that most people will have already heard of, whether they're super into him or not, among the likes of characters like Bugs Bunny, Superman, Godzilla, so on and so forth. Speaking of Bugs, Popeye was once even considered one of the big four of cartoons in the golden age of animation, alongside him, Mickey, and Felix the Cat. And that's in addition to his reputation as a powerhouse, getting compared to the likes of Superman, albeit for different reasons. But still, finally being able to see this spinach-munching sailor either team up with or fight against other icons of his caliber would be a real treat. Even if that means he'd also get compared to Ultra Instinct Shaggy. But another reason I think Popeye deserves this is because his output recently has not been very remarkable. There was some test footage for a movie released in 2016, but that got shelved in favor of the Emoji Movie. And what a great call that was. And after that, there's been a cheaply made YouTube Kids series, the aforementioned Switch game. He got dragged into NFTs, and the also aforementioned Angry Birds. So, yeah, it's been pretty rough for new Popeye material. And I think a character as well-known and beloved as this definitely deserves better. And if him getting into a game like MultiVersus is what pushes that into motion, then I'm definitely going to be rooting for him. But how would he even work in the game, you're probably wondering? Well, thankfully that's the whole point of this video. So, let's get into that. Now, here's perhaps the most shocking part of this moveset. Popeye's going to be a bruiser character. I know, right? In all seriousness, don't really think I need to elaborate much on that one. It's Popeye. He's pretty well known for being a brawler, so that's the obvious archetype for him. Let's start with addressing how he'd play into the teamwork angle of MultiVersus, with the one thing Popeye's never seen without, that trusty can of spinach. For one of his specials, he'd be able to pull it out and squeeze that green stuff right into his mouth, giving him a temporary but massive strength buff, making it easy for him to land early knockouts on his opponents. Or, alternatively, if he's in a team match, he could instead send it towards his teammate to give that same strength buff to them, since it's established that spinach doesn't just work on Popeye himself. And even though Popeye never seems short on spinach thanks to his hammer space, we'd probably have to give him some sort of cooldown after it wears off, or give him limited uses until he's KO'd and respawns, just to keep it from being too overpowered. And on the subject of things iconic to Popeye, another one of his specials would have to be his classic Twister Punch. He'd coil up his fist to charge it up, and then unleash a powerful punch when he's ready. Basically the same deal as Donkey Kong's Giant Punch in Smash, which would be pretty fitting considering the OG Donkey Kong was inspired by Popeye. You copy me and I'll copy you back, you big palooka primate. And for his recovery, there's a couple of ideas I could see working. One option could be to have him throw out an anchor as a makeshift grappling hook, as an obscure reference to the Japanese exclusive game, Ijiwaru Majo Sihag no Maki, which I know I most likely butchered to hell. And of course we could also include the anchor for some basic attacks just to give him some more range. But if they want to lean more into Popeye's cartoony side, they could also go for the classic gag of flying like a rocket with his pipe, complete with the flames being able to damage enemies below him. And for more standard attacks, he'd obviously need to throw out a wide variety of punches, since he's definitely known to pack one. His basic jab could just be a left hook, right hook combo, but if you keep tapping the button, he'd start unleashing a flurry of punches that push back any palooka in his path. All of this would make Popeye a pretty typical in-your-face brawler, but like I said, I think that'd be pretty fitting for him. And speaking of fitting, let's see who's going to fit into the voice actor booth for the guy. Epic transition. Just like with Dastardly, this was kinda hard for me to pin down, but also easier at the same time. Earlier I brought up that test animation for a Popeye movie, and well, I'm bringing it up again, because in it, Popeye was voiced by Mr. SpongeBob himself, Tom Kenny.
Whoopsie.
And he did a pretty good job as the sailor, even giving himself a brief line in the Samurai Jack reboot as a robot version of him. Tom's a pretty versatile voice actor, and if Popeye were to get another revival, I could totally see them going with him again. So that'll be who I nominate to voice him should he come to MultiVersus. As for what he'd say, there's a lot of potential for fun lines and interactions here. Perhaps he could have some lines against Superman commenting on how he must eat his spinach to be so strong, or maybe reference that one cartoon where Bluto pretended to be the Man of Steel to swipe Olive. You ain't pulling the wool over this time. When he's paired up with Garnet, he could sing his own version of Stronger Than You, except instead of it being about the power of love, it's about the power of eating spinach. Because of course he'd sing about that. He could mutter about having to make an exception to never hitting a lady or dumb aminal when he's fighting against characters like Arya or Jake, the form of which might just piss her off now that I know more about what she's like. And while it pains me to talk about Meme Shaggy, since his official bio mentions him eating something to suddenly get so strong, I could see a quip relating to that, since again, that's kind of Popeye's main shtick. And for one final idea, maybe you could just have Tom muttering some random lines off the top of his head for him to say in the middle of a fight. Just like how a lot of the old Popeye cartoons had a lot of ad-libbing in them.
Nope, not so good.
What do you think you're looking at, huh?
I wonder if that thing is human.
Who, me? Who?
Pretty hard specimen to work on.
Hey, what's the idea of throwing me pipe away? You want to spoil the flavor or something?
I don't really know how that'd work or if it's even feasible, but it'd be a charming little detail that I think fans would appreciate. Being around for as long as he has, Popeye's got no shortage of options for alternate skins. For starters, he could have a classic boxing getup, since there's quite a few comics and shorts where he's a professional boxer, and it would just make sense for a punch-drunk guy like Popeye. Other options could be his detective getup from Private Eye Popeye to go along with Tom and Jerry's, the time he depicted himself as Hercules in Greek mythology, his prince getup or knight armor from Ancient Fistory, or maybe even well, we gotta keep our options open, I guess. Animation-wise, if it wasn't obvious by now, I'd like them to play into Popeye's cartoonier side, since I think the shorts are what he's most well known for, such as really playing up the squash and stretch to make him feel that extra bit wacky, while also giving a lot more oomph to his stronger attacks. When the match begins, it'd be neat to see him fly in on a rowboat after rowing a bit too hard. For taunts, he could blow his pipe like a boat whistle, or flex his muscles into various shapes. And for his victory, we could see him dancing a wee sailor's jig before taking a bow. And finally, for a potential stage, should he get one, I think it would be neat if they used Popeye's very own trusty sea vessel, the Spinnacher. Ideally, as it appeared in the Popeye meets Sinbad cartoon. Maybe this could be a more casual stage with the waves rocking the boat around, but if they want to keep things consistent, I think this layout works fine for a standard stage. Maybe you could even have Sinbad's giant bird attack the ship as an additional hazard, or stage boss, if this game's gonna have those. Well, that's all I can think to say here. I wasn't expecting Popeye to be one of my most wanted third-party characters for this game, but now I think he's got a lot of potential to be a really fun character, and one who's definitely got the legacy to support him being in a game like this. Cause that is what he is, and that's all what he is.
Who's the most remarkable, extraordinary fella?
Sure! Popeye the Sailor!
He's Popeye the Sailor Man. He's Popeye the Sailor Man.
Just finished.